Hi, construction gurus. I hope everybody is doing okay. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about how a contractor is selected, whether it's a general contractor or a subcontractor. The process, more or less, you can say, remains the same, but our focus will more mainly be on selecting a subcontractor. My name is Abdullah Khan. I'm the owner, co-founder of Bidding Enterprise. We specialize in pre-construction estimating, and we help contractors win more jobs. So let's dive into the topic. Selecting a contractor is not an easy task, right? So, for example, if I am building my own house, right, it has some sort of emotional significance for me as well. So, I would like to work with a guy or with a company who has built excellent houses, right? Has some sort of track record and has the right team and the right finish quality and with the right amount of money as well, and they can get things done very quickly as well. So there are so many different things which I will look in a general contractor or a contractor to select for my house, right? The same kind of criteria, you can say, more or less, is applicable to any commercial projects as well. In a commercial project, if it's not an individual, if it is a company, then the company would like to hire a contractor who is brilliant in his work, who can keep his promises, who is financially stable, has an excellent safety record, right? Has got all the licenses in place, etc., etc. Now, the reason I selected this topic for today's video is, what if I want to become a contractor? Right. So today I wake up and say, hey, it seems like construction industry is a good fit for me, and I would like to become a contractor. Right. Now, we're not talking about the technical, the skill set. Let's just assume for now that I want to start a plumbing company and I'm an excellent plumber, let's just say, okay, for the sake of it. So for a project, if a general contractor is looking for a plumbing contractor or an electrical contractor, and then he has multiple options available. So which company is he going to hire for his job? That's the question for today. So there is a thing called pre-qualification. Usually that happens for public projects or public institutes, but for larger commercial developers and construction companies, they have this pre-qualification criteria too. So if I want to become a contractor and now I want to work with Turner or Gilbane or I don't know, Coastal, then usually I need to go through their pre-qualification process. So that pre-qualification process can have all different sorts of technical evaluations and past experiences and references and bonding and insurances and a safety record, as I mentioned earlier. So pre-qualification is usually a very predefined procedure. But most companies who are small to mid-sized companies, they usually don't have a pre-qualification process. And if you are starting out as a contractor, then you're probably going to work with smaller GCs, the smaller developers. So in that case, let's say there is a job that you figure that's coming up and is in bidding stage. So what I would suggest in that case is go and see that company, somebody within that company who, a person, probably a lead estimator or a project manager who is in charge, or a construction manager who is in charge of that particular project, and get all the documents and drawings and everything from that person. What it does is, now you have a face-to-face relationship with that construction manager. And now if you're gonna give him a call later on, he's probably gonna pick up the phone because your number is now saved in his cell number, in his cell phone. Okay, so the first thing is, go and talk to that construction company. Now, the criteria that they use to evaluate you is, you can say, two-pronged. First one is technical evaluation, and second one is commercial evaluation. For technical evaluation, they want to know if you can take on this size of or this complexity of work or not, right? So within that technical submission, you will have to submit a lot of information about right, who you are, who your company is, what kind of projects you have done, who your team is. So if you are an electrician by trade for last 10 years, then you can put in, hey, I've worked on this project and that project, and most likely some of those projects are well known, or even if it is a house, then you can say, I worked on a job that's on that street, and people usually recognize different addresses. So you have to build a portfolio, and a nice looking one as well. Then additionally, you need to add some references, right? I worked for that particular client, that particular employer, or that guy was my supervisor, right? You can go and talk to that person, you can call him. So always have some solid references in your technical proposal. Okay. Now you also need to add information about what kind of licenses you got. So, for example, if you have a rigorous license, you put it in there, right? What sort of safety licenses you got? What sort of safety records you have had on your previous projects? So you put it in there. Additionally, you need to write in length or at length about your project that you want to take on as well. So for example, if it is a commercial fit out building, right, and you need to make sure that in your technical proposal you write down, hey, this is the job, right? These many lights, these many switch gears, or these many panels, or etc., etc. So give them a very good overview of the project. So what it does is, when a person is reviewing two different technical documents, and one person has spent time talking about the project in detail, and the other person just said that, hey, I can do this job because I'm very good at it, then the person who's reviewing it is automatically inclined towards the proposal who has taken the time to go in depth, right? And you have to be that person, so that when he is evaluating you, say, all right, he is technically competent, he has got a solid team, he's got a very good background, he's done these many jobs, and he knows about my project too, right? That's a very nice referral, you can say. So you now, the document is speaking itself, you don't have to say anything to that person, right? So that's the technical side of it. And commercial side is, most people, they focus on commercial side, and even as a subcontractor usually say, hey, I submitted a bid, and I was the lowest one but never heard back, and so GC went with some other contractor. So why that happened? If your bid was the lowest one, then don't you think that the GC, they should award you that work? No, no, they're not bound to, right? There's no contract. They're now seeking some proposals from contractors such as yourself, who can present themselves in a professional manner, so that when they're looking at it and say, hey, commercially speaking, this guy is the lowest one, but the second lowest one is technically more competent, or that's the person who I know personally. I know that I've worked with that person in the past, and that person always delivers. So even if he's asking for a little bit more money, then I'm more comfortable in going with that person. All right, so you need to, rather than just relying on submitting a bid and then just say, hey, they should get back to me because, my number, they are reasonable. No, what you need to do is, you need to have technical evaluation completed out properly. You need to be commercially qualified as well. So you need to be the lowest responsive bidder too. And at the end, the most important part is build that relationship. The next step is follow up. Keep following up. It's not like you submitted a bid and then 3 weeks down the line say, hey, what happened? Yes, that's a very good follow up, right? But then you need to call them again in 2 weeks time. Then you need to call them again in probably another 3-4 weeks time. You have to have a clear understanding of when are they going to make the award. All right. If you know that timeline, then you can follow up at very timely fashion, right? So, for example, if I call somebody and say, "Hey, submitted a bid 2 months ago, never heard back, what's going on?" and they say that, "Hey, we've already given it to somebody else last month," right? So my follow-up is already too late because I never paid attention to when exactly they are going to award that work, right? So you need to follow up and follow up and follow up. I cannot emphasize it anymore than say technical qualification important, super important, commercial responsiveness extremely important, but the follow-ups, they are super duper important. All those companies, all those you can, even individuals or contractors who have some sort of mechanism in place to follow up with these general contractors develops on regular and timely fashion, they are the ones who end up getting most of the projects. It's not like who's submitting the bid, right? Submitting the bid is, you can say, 30% of the hard work. Remaining is building that relationship, and that relationship cannot be built unless you follow up. Some follow-ups can be over the phone, some follow-ups can be over a text message or by an email, but then you have to have at least one or two follow-ups that are physical, one-to-one. Go meet that person, that construction manager, right? He may not give you one job now, he may not give you another next three jobs, but he will definitely give you a project. There will be a time when that general contractor will say, "Hey, this person always shows up, this person is always there, every time I ask a question he responds back." Okay, so how do they select a contractor? If I have to put it in a single word, my word would be follow up, right? Even when you're putting together a technical proposal, hey, you have to raise RFIs, you have to ask questions, you need to seek for clarifications if there is any ambiguity in the plans, or if you're not so sure about, right, which one is owner provided or which one is self-performed by the general contractor, so where do my scope lies. You need to ask all these questions, and they don't mind answering those questions. Even if they don't say so, but in the back of the mind, they do mind that if somebody is not responsive, they're not asking questions. But there's no question that's stupid, right? You need to ask questions, you need to follow up, you need to go meet those person, and in between, you need to make sure that you got the right licenses, you need to make sure that you got the bonding in place, you need to make sure that you have the right references, you need to make sure that you go through the drawings and the design packages and the RFIs and the specifications and whatnot to make sure that you cover all your bases and put together a nice looking proposal, a nice looking document that clearly says, hey, these are the inclusions, these are the exclusions, so that when somebody is looking at your proposal, he doesn't really have to pick up the phone and say, "Hey Tom, I don't understand, so do you have waterproofing in it or not?" Right? It doesn't say as it doesn't say it doesn't. So if they are courteous enough to give you that call, that's a good thing. But what if they assume that just because we sent you all the documents and we've mentioned somewhere in those 300 different drawings and specifications that waterproofing is a part of XYZ scope, but you did not read that particular comment, then that cost would come down to you, because now they are assuming that just because your proposal doesn't say what is included, what is not, then it should be included. That's a fair assumption to make as well. So when they are selecting a contractor, you are the contractor they are selecting, right? So you need to think like them. You need to get into their shoes. You need to somehow figure out what exactly is their criteria and fulfill that criteria, and 100% certain that you will be able to land your next big project in no time. I wish you guys best of luck. Keep connected to this channel, and please do let me know in the comment section if you have anything to say. If there's anything I can, or my company Bidding Enterprise can help you out in the bidding stage or during the estimation and all that, we would be happy to help. Thank you very much.